Urgently, Ukraine has decided to help its neighbors, Georgia, Belarus, Transnistria. We are already there. Putin has been driven out from 3 directions at once. Minsk is counting down Lukashenko's final hours. Batka is already packing his bags. Georgia and Transnistria erupted. Territorial liberation begins. Russia's final collapse. Shaheds are finished. Fedorov has played his trump card. Laser execution live on air. With its latest decision, Ukrainian air defense has become an impenetrable dome of death. The sky is locked shut for Putin. The real hunt for Russian drones has begun. Panic among Russian generals. Urgently, China has made an unexpected move and stabbed Putin in the back. Xi Jinping has turned his back. Moscow's last hope has collapsed. What the Kremlin feared most has happened. All this and more in our upcoming report. Hotspot. Russia out. The Kremlin is trapped. Ukraine is changing the rules of the game. Minsk is awaiting an assault. Lukashenko is counting his last days. The army is being torn apart from 3 countries at once. Georgia and Transnistria are suddenly turning the situation around. Watch for all the details. While Russia tries to hold the front in Ukraine, the very geography of the war is beginning to change. Kyiv is becoming increasingly active in areas where Moscow's influence was considered unshakable until recently. In Belarus, Transnistria, and Georgia.
Minimizing the influence of the Russian Federation beyond its borders. This is a security priority not only for Ukraine, but in fact for the entire civilized world and above all for the European continent. That is why the goals of Ukraine, Europe, and the West as a whole are absolutely aligned here. They are the same.
Belarus is becoming more deeply involved in the war. It is from its territory that Russia launches drones at Ukrainian cities. But, according to Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukraine has already destroyed the facilities that controlled these drones.
Modern relay stations for Shahed drones have appeared on the territory of Belarus. According to him, these are used to guide and coordinate strikes on Ukraine.
But it won't end there, because the dictators of these countries have signed a number of documents within the framework of the Union State. This is how Russia is slowly but surely devouring Belarus. In
the current international situation, against the backdrop of heightened tensions, especially on the western borders, it is vitally important for us to develop allied relations and strategic partnership between Belarus and Russia.
At the same time, resistance to the Lukashenko regime continues within Belarus itself. Holding new elections, constitutional reform, supporting Ukraine, and pursuing a European path of development, these are all goals of the Belarusian opposition.
When analyzing the capabilities of the Belarusian opposition, it's much the same as analyzing the capabilities of the Russian opposition. Both the first and the second are puppet-like, artificial, as if they exist, but not really. But in totalitarian regimes, Lukashenko and Putin, without a doubt, are simply imitating some kind of activity.
A month ago, for the first time since 2020, there was a bilateral meeting between Volodymyr Zelensky and the opposition leader Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya. But what does this mean?
It's a good thing. Again, judging by Tsikhanouskaya's own recent comments after this contact with the president of Ukraine, some kind of horizontal contact has been established with the Ukrainian intelligence services, who have actively started to communicate with representatives of the Belarusian opposition on a regular working basis rather than as a one-off. This is, again, in order to understand and gauge the mood within Belarus itself.
Another potential point of change remains Transnistria. Weakened by economic and energy crises, the region has, for the first time in years, found itself under increased scrutiny from Kyiv and its European allies.
For example, with weapons, military personnel, gas, and also electricity, Russia is currently unable to help them with any of this. Naturally, this is causing negative sentiment within Transnistria itself. Undoubtedly, many are beginning to feel seriously disillusioned with Putin's policies and with the Russian Federation. Now, there is even a widely held and seriously discussed opinion in Transnistria that Putin has simply abandoned them.
At the same time, the European Union has issued an ultimatum to the Kremlin.
Russia has occupied many territories, and its troops are deployed in various regions, be it in Georgia or Moldova. Therefore, yes, to achieve lasting peace, it must be clear that they need to withdraw their troops from all the occupied territories where they are currently present. Of course, some say that these demands are unrealistic. But let's be honest, the demands from Russia are completely unrealistic to begin with.
European initiatives are increasingly calling for the withdrawal of Russian troops not only from Ukraine but also from Transnistria and even Georgia. In fact, a new security system is being discussed.
The configuration right now for such an eye-opening experience for the residents of Transnistria, for the reality, is as clear as it can possibly be at this moment.
But while Russia is isolated in Transnistria, in Georgia it still retains powerful direct military levers. In Abkhazia and South Ossetia, while at the same time keeping the rest of the country in a state of high economic dependence.
The extent of Russia's geopolitical influence within Georgia is no longer as definitive or easily defined as it once was, back during those times when such massive, large-scale initiatives were not yet being implemented. Samami. We are now seeing the introduction of major new global economic and logistical projects driven by significant international players. Consequently, Georgia could potentially become, let's say, something akin to a strategic neutral zone for the region, and this evolution marks a very significant shift in the current landscape.
Of course, the people of Georgia themselves are not satisfied with this.
I'm here for a very simple reason, to defend my European future and democracy in my country. We participated in the elections and they were clearly rigged. And up to now, we've done everything in our power to show that we want a European future. We
Do not want to be part of Russia, we want to be part of Europe, and we belong to Europe.
The war continues not only on the battlefield. Today, the confrontation between Russia and the West is becoming increasingly evident beyond Ukraine, in countries where the future security of the entire region is being decided. It happened. The issue of Shaheds has been settled. An impenetrable dome of death. Ukrainian air defense has become a nightmare for Putin. The interception rate is shocking. The sky is locked tight. At the General Staff, the Arabs are holding their heads in disbelief. The real hunt for Russian UAVs has begun. This marks the start of total air superiority for Ukrainian forces. Look.
And 28 on board in the sky, laser guidance and minigun machine gun. That's right now the Ukrainian air defense is fighting against Russian martyrs. And such innovations are bearing fruit. On Thursday morning, the aggressor launched another combined strike on Ukraine. 420 Shaheds and 32 missiles. Only 46 Shaheds and 5 missiles reached their targets. All the rest were shot down or suppressed. The president of Ukraine noted the high interception rate and the excellent work of the air defense.
More than 30 Russian missiles were shot down. Most of them were aimed specifically at the energy sector. It was possible to protect very important facilities. As for the Shaheds, there are results there as well. Every night when our air defense has a sufficient supply, when our partners fulfill what we agree on, we are able to achieve such results. And to shoot them down.
Ukrainian air defense shot down all the anti-ship cruise missiles, 2 Zircon missiles and 24 Kh-101 missiles. The latter are being launched by the Russians at Ukraine practically straight off the assembly line.
Russia is churning out Kh-101 missiles like hotcakes. The enemy has already started using them as soon as they come off the line. And in January, we recorded the use of missiles that had come off the assembly line that very same month.
Russia has started using missiles produced in 2026 for strikes on Ukraine. And this is not because things are going well for them. The occupiers need to shut down Ukraine's energy sector at any cost, but thanks to the effective work of air defense, they have not succeeded. In addition to the modern deliveries of PAC-3 missiles from our partners, the new Minister of Defense, Mikhailo Fedorov, and his team have implemented a system. The After-Action Review, which analyzes every Russian attack and enables decisions to be made to strengthen air defense.
Our main focus in the first month was air defense as a rapid response to the intense shelling by the Russians. Our task was to strengthen the air defense system. To achieve this, we implemented the After-Action Review system. Mikhailo Fedorov, Minister of Defense of Ukraine.
Over the past few weeks, the air forces of the armed forces of Ukraine have started to operate more effectively. Some things were successfully reorganized in the defense structure against massive Russian attacks. These actions have produced results. A significant increase in the percentage of enemy cruise missiles and UAVs shot down indicates improved air defense effectiveness.
It is clear that the after-action review which Fedorov's team is currently conducting with the air forces and the short-range air defense units provides valuable input for the changes that we then use during subsequent massive attacks to counter enemy drones and missiles. Therefore, there are definitely positive changes that have taken place. They have influenced the quality of the air defense forces' work today.
The Ministry of Defense has stated that this is only the beginning of systemic changes in the work of air defense. And not only that, changes are also planned in the work of interceptors, mobile fire groups, and the short-range air defense component. This means that Russia's massive attacks will become less and less effective.
Ukrainian ballistic missiles are already in the sky, a secret monster is scorching the rear to ashes, and Gerasimov is holding his head in his hands. The era of Moscow's invulnerability is over. A true missile apocalypse has begun for the aggressor. Ukrainian engineers have achieved the impossible. Watch for all the details.
The Ukrainian missile, which today is deeply feared and respected, not only by our enemies, but thanks to its remarkable precision and low production cost, is even a significant point of concern for Kyiv's international partners. In February 2022, we asked our Western partners to close the airspace over Ukraine. But by February 2026, it is Europe that is asking Ukraine to share its unique experience. How can you do this yourself?
It's a very simple technology. There's nothing complicated needed here. There are plenty of books written about this where everything is explained, how it's done, what's so difficult about it.
As it turned out, modern American and European air defense technologies have a huge drawback: their cost. Even though Western weaponry is technologically unmatched, given the current realities of warfare, NATO would only be able to defend against enemy missiles and drones for a few days. The West simply doesn't have enough resources for anything more. After all, each missile is dozens, if not hundreds of times more expensive than the drones it is used to destroy.
Currently, intercepting an Iskander costs over $6 million.
And here, Ukraine steps forward to provide assistance to the West with its unique Flamingo missile.
We want to bring this down to $1 to $1.5 million for an Iskander interception.
Using the FP9 missile.
Using the FP7 missile.
The Ukrainian Flamingo is already demonstrating unprecedented effectiveness and accuracy, striking strategic targets in Russia. Developed in the shortest possible time, the missile has become yet another headache for Putin and his generals. Since the development is entirely domestic, the Ukrainian armed forces do not need any permission. They can strike with the Flamingo wherever they want, and wherever they need to. The only problem our developers have to deal with is scaling up production. So far, it has not been possible to produce enough missiles per month to meet the needs of the Ukrainian armed forces.
This is strategic weaponry. Unfortunately, strategic weapons can't be bought or launched in the same quantities as hotcakes like it happens with FPV drones. In order for the effect to be seen by everyone, for it to reach every household. But based on the missions that have been carried out so far, we see that it fully meets the objectives we set for it.
Since there still aren't enough domestic missiles to strike all targets on Russian territory, our Western partners have to help with this as well. Thus, the United Kingdom is developing a new deep strike ballistic missile for Ukraine.
We can state that first and foremost we are talking about a missile that can be quickly scaled and is a relatively inexpensive means. Because the government of the United Kingdom is specifically emphasizing that this should be a means that is cost-effective, meaning it will meet the demands of the current time. Since we see that the armed forces have a lot of such means and it cannot be too expensive.
As a result, within the framework of the Nightfall project, Britain announced a competition for the accelerated development of ballistic missiles intended for combat operations under conditions of high threat and strong electromagnetic interference. The modern English missile will be able to launch from various platforms, carry out a series of launches, and leave its position within a few minutes. The system will be equipped with a 200-kilogram high-explosive warhead. It will feature high accuracy and a range of up to 1,000 kilometers.
500 kilometers. This completely covers all the temporarily occupied territory of Ukraine. It also covers a significant portion of the European part of the Russian Federation. And at this depth, the enemy positions its higher-level headquarters starting from brigade and up to divisional, army, and group of forces levels. These are also serious logistical hubs, meaning places where fuel and lubricants, as well as ammunition depots, are concentrated.
In combination with the Ukrainian Flamingo, the British missile can significantly reduce the Kremlin's and personally Putin's desire to continue their campaign. Instead of missile strikes on peaceful Ukrainian cities, the bunker dweller will be forced to endlessly defend against Ukrainian armed forces' missiles.
The number and intensity of operations by our security forces, including the use of strike drones against strategic targets, are increasing. They are wearing down the enemy's air defense forces, the enemy. And the combination of ballistic weapons and strike drones can deliver targeted strikes against specific critically important enemy targets.
And things will only get worse from here, at least for the Kremlin. Ukrainian developers promise to reach the required supply volumes for the armed forces of Ukraine by the end of this year. Ballistics, while simultaneously developing more and more types of advanced weaponry.
For a year. This is ballistics. In 2 or 3 years, it will be the creation of an anti-ballistic air defense shield over all of Europe.